We're fearlessly talking about the biggest stories that matter to you the most. Breaking news, John Calipari is finalizing a 5-year deal to become the Arkansas Razorbacks' next head coach, covering college sports like no one else. The biggest guests in sports. We now welcome in Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun.
Sense of pride I had, I came to connect.
The legend, Tim Tebow, joins us.
We'll run it back. I like it.
The legend, Herschel Walker. Welcome in, everybody. Monday night edition, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. Didn't know where we were going to go on this Monday night episode of the Aaron Torres Pod. Well, guess what? We're going to put on our tinfoil hats, baby, because we have what I think is essentially a conspiracy theory for the ages. We are reacting in real time, minutes after the Dallas Mavericks win the NBA draft lottery, conveniently just a few months after they traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. So everybody come on in. If you're watching on Twitter, go ahead and find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Aaron Torres. But we got what I think is going to be a really fun show. We're going to talk Cooper Flagg, Dallas Mavericks, conspiracy theories. By the way, Dallas, if you want to get real conspiratorial, also won the WNBA lottery. Paige Beckers is going to Dallas. So yeah, we'll discuss that. From there, I did get a mailbag question about the most underrated offseason in college basketball. I think the answer is simple. I think it's actually the UConn Huskies. We'll talk about that. Maybe a little bit of odds and ends. Did you see Michael Jordan going back to NBC to work as part of their NBA coverage? And we'll wrap. Listen, Torres doesn't like to be negative, but college football playoff expanding yet again. What are we doing, people? Greg Sankey, Tony Petiti, stop killing the things that we love. Before we get started, a couple quick things. First of all, hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. That was why there was no live episode of the Aaron Torres Pod on Sunday night, but hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. We're back. We're going to do some shows here over the next couple weeks. We're traveling on Tuesday night, but I will have a special interview for you on Tuesday. Some good interviews, some very good interviews coming up in the next couple weeks with some people that you'll want to hear from. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Also, Apple, Spotify. Do me a favor. Producer Matt has dropped the podcast link in the YouTube description. So go ahead and subscribe on podcast as well. But we do appreciate your support. Speaking of support, you know who else's support we appreciate? We appreciate our friends. We appreciate our partners. We appreciate Cauley Puffs at CauleyPuffs.com. Okay, so I've told you all about Cauley Puffs, family-owned company, not far from where I live. Joey, huge football fan, Rams season ticket holder, but he was sitting on the couch one day and he said, folks, I need a snack that is both healthy but delicious. I need something my kids are going to like, but I need something that I'm going to like as well. And he came up with Cauley Puffs. Here's what you need to know about Cauley Puffs. These are the alternative snack in your grocery aisle. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But the best part is they taste delicious. This is the alternative to, like I said, the crap in your grocery aisle, the Doritos, the Fritos, all that stuff. You don't want any of that in your body. What you do want up inside of you is Cauley Puffs. For more information, visit CauleyPuffs.com. That's CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com. Also, you can go ahead and search Amazon.com. Just search Amazon.com. Just search Amazon.com for Cauley Puffs. You will find them there. Trust me, you will like them. It's that time of year. It's beach season. It's pool season. As I said the other day, it's mowing your lawn with your shirt off season. You need to be in better shape. You need Cauley Puffs. Thank you to CauleyPuffs.com. With that said, boy, oh boy, oh boy, it is a busy Monday night in sports. There is no more time to waste. So, folks, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, we knew coming into today, it was Flag Day, baby. That is right. Cooper Flagg. Tonight was the NBA draft lottery. Again, we did no Sunday episode, so I thought we would wait until after the draft lottery. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, am I glad we did. We knew the draft lottery was Monday. We know, listen, I don't care who got the number one overall pick. Cooper Flagg is going number one. I mean, even if it's somebody that doesn't want the pick, the Rockets or something, they might trade the pick. But I bring it up because we knew Cooper Flagg was going to go number one. Just the question becomes, what team would be lucky enough to have the opportunity to draft him? Well, it wasn't the team with the best odds, the Washington Wizards. It wasn't the team with the second best odds, which I believe was the Charlotte Hornets. Third best odds was, I think, the Brooklyn Nets. I can't remember all the details now. All I do know is that with a percentage of 1.8% chance of winning the lottery, in other words, if they did the lottery 100 times, less than 2 times out of 100, the Dallas Mavericks would win it. Well, guess what? The Dallas Mavericks win the Cooper Flagg draft lottery. And with that, they have the chance to draft a generational prospect. I think one of the best college basketball players that can do a little bit of everything that I have ever seen. So here's what I will say. There's a lot to discuss with Cooper Flagg. There's a lot to dive into. I had all these notes about the impact that he could have on this organization, that organization, but that's not what you care about on a Monday. By the way, we're recording a little bit later. I must have drank too much coffee because I got so much freaking energy right now. But I just bring it up. You don't want to hear about Cooper Flagg's game. How does he finish with his left hand? How is he as a weak side blocker? No, you want to talk about a very easy conspiracy theory that I will be completely honest, I kind of sort of believe, and that is this. The Dallas Mavericks, who of course just so happened to trade Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, are gifted the number one pick. So just 3 or 4 months after one of the 5 best players in the league, just now entering his prime. Oh, by the way, do not forget, he was fresh off an NBA Finals appearance. He just so happens to end up a Los Angeles Laker. Fast forward 2 or 3 months, and oh, by the way, a team with a 1.8% chance to win the draft lottery wins it. Yeah, my tinfoil hat is on. Yeah, I'm calling BS. And yeah, I'm calling conspiracy theory. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Listen, we don't talk a ton of NBA, but it's okay. This is the day to do it. And let me start by saying this. So I think a lot of you know, Aaron Torres pod is incredible. We reach millions of people every year. But I only bring it up to say that in addition to doing the Aaron Torres pod, I host Fox Sports Radio's national Saturday night show, okay? So that's a lot of college football in the fall, NFL playoffs, whatever. And on the night of February 1st of 2025, I was hosting at about midnight Eastern time. I host from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. every Saturday with Jason Martin. He's the best. I love working with him, okay? And so going into that night, you know what we thought we were going to be talking about? John Calipari's return to Kentucky and Rupp Arena at Arkansas, getting the win, and we're going to discuss that. And then, you know what happened from there? At about 12:20 Eastern time, in the middle of our show, Luka Doncic gets traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers. We were live on air when it happened, okay? And I only bring it up to very simply say that since that day, I have never yet to hear a good explanation as to why that trade happened. Okay, so I was on air, and I'll be totally transparent. We did the thing that everybody else did. We see the trade, Luka Doncic to the Lakers with this guy for Anthony Davis, this guy. And we did the same thing on air that everybody else did. We paused. We went over to our update anchor, Steve DeSager, who's great at what he does as well. We waited. We waited to see if Shams had been hacked. We waited to see if the official ESPN Twitter had been hacked. And I just bring it up because you go back to that night. There was no logical explanation that could justify the trade. And to be totally transparent, I've been following this story. I live in Los Angeles. I was on air when the trade happened, okay? And so I only bring it up to very simply say that trade happened on February 1st, 2025. We are recording here May 12th, 2025. I have still yet to hear a single good explanation as to why the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. I know what Nico Harrison has said. He's said all these things about, well, we're a defensive first organization. And I didn't know the impact that Luka had on the community. And if you had Anthony Davis with Kyrie Irving and Derek Lively and PJ Washington, that's a championship team. And all of that sounds well and good, but it does not justify and it does not explain trading a 25-year-old Luka Doncic, just now entering his prime, just now going into the heart of his career, fresh off of a finals appearance. It never made sense. And so to bring it full circle, this isn't a Luka segment. But, by the way, some of you, this is probably the first time you ever heard me talk NBA. So you're like, I can't believe Torres is even going in this direction. But I just bring it up. The trade never made sense in the moment. And so why do I bring it full circle to Cooper Flagg on May 12th of 2025? It is because if you want to believe in a convenient conspiracy theory, I think it's right there, right? What is the conspiracy theory? In a season where NBA ratings were tanking, I know the playoff ratings are good, but go back to January, go back to February. They were down even more than they had been in previous years. I think the stat is something like they're down 40% overall since the start of since like 2012, okay? And so I bring it up. If you want the conspiracy theory, in a season where NBA ratings were tanking, Luka Doncic, a star, gets traded to the most marketable franchise, the biggest franchise in the NBA with a star closing in on 40 years old. And nobody can explain it. Nico Harrison can't really justify it. Ownership is ducking questions. If you want your conspiracy theory, here it is. The NBA helped facilitate Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, and in return, Cooper Flagg is going to the Dallas Mavericks. That is the favor that the Mavericks have been awarded or given after trading Luka Doncic. Basically, you do us a solid. You trade Luka to the Lakers. You make them relevant. Guess what? We will take care of you. We will send a generational prospect over your way. Listen, I'm not saying that it happened, but what I am saying feels awfully convenient, doesn't it? I mean, because think about it. First of all, think about everything over the last couple months. One, like I said, it's 4 months after the fact. There is no way to justify Luka Doncic's trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. 25-year-old in his prime, coming off an NBA Finals appearance. There's still no real explanation to it. So that happens. Everybody gets mad. Nico Harrison becomes the public face of this. By the way, everybody was mad. Dirk Nowitzki has largely disowned the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, everybody has disowned the Dallas Mavericks. Attendance is down. Merchandising is down. People are unfollowing them on social media. But Nico Harrison did a solid for the league. And now, as a return favor, he now gets Cooper Flagg. And like I mentioned, by the way, Dallas didn't just win the NBA draft lottery. They won the WNBA draft lottery and took Paige Beckers as the number 1 overall pick as well. And so, listen, I haven't looked at the chat yet. I don't know how many people are in the chat with the conspiracy theories that I were. But I just I see what AR said. You did make me laugh there. I'm sorry. So listen, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, but I will say if you believe in conspiracy theories, this is a pretty good one. So that's my conspiracy theory on Cooper Flagg and Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'll say this. As far as a fit is concerned, it's a very interesting fit. The one thing I will say, let me to completely switch gears. Let's talk about Cooper Flagg. I almost said, I won't even say what I almost said, but go back to AR's comment in the chat. That was the name that I almost said. Anyway, all right. So I've given my conspiracy theory. We can't explain how Luka Doncic ended up as a Los Angeles Laker. This now is the payback. Nico Harrison, this is his saving grace. One thing I will say, excuse my language, I don't like to swear on this show, and I don't even know if this is a swear, but damn, are the Dallas Mavericks interesting now. Okay, so Dallas went, and listen, the one thing I will say, I'll justify Nico Harrison from this perspective, okay? Think the trade was awful. Think his explanation was awful. Think that him saying that he didn't understand how much Luka meant to the Dallas community, I thought it was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody say in professional sports. Even if you know that to be true, don't say it. Don't say it publicly, okay? But what I will defend Nico Harrison on is when he actually sat down and explained, look, here's the bottom line. The reason that we did this is as follows. We believe that a core of Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, and Klay Thompson. We believe that is a core that can win the championship. Now, I disagree. I still think the trade is sketchy. But on paper, that is a pretty good team. And of course, that's under the assumption that everybody's healthy. But that's also where we have to start the Cooper Flagg conversation. This just got very interesting, okay? Because the one thing I will say, Dallas has plenty of talent on that roster. Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis. Whatever you think about Anthony. By the way, I think the reason the Lakers lost in the playoffs was because Anthony Davis was, because Anthony Davis was the defender, rim protector, low post guy that they needed. So Anthony Davis is great, just can't stay healthy. Kyrie Irving will obviously be coming off a knee surgery. Klay Thompson's about 34, 35. But the one thing you can't deny is that team has talent. Now you put Cooper Flagg into the mix. And the one thing I will say about Cooper Flagg, I led the segment by saying this because I believe it to be the truth. I do think Cooper Flagg's about the most talented freshman that I've ever seen in terms of an ability to impact things on both ends of the floor. I think I said this during the season, and I'll go ahead and say it here, is that I do believe that in all my years watching college basketball, I believe that the two most gifted freshmen that I've ever seen in their ability to impact both ends of the floor were Anthony Davis and Cooper Flagg. Anthony Davis, so you go back, listen, Kentucky fans don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. John Calipari always used to say what? Anthony Davis took the fourth most shots on our team that year. And Anthony Davis was great offensively, National Player of the Year, but he was just as good defensively as well. 5 blocks per game that season. I went back and looked that up. I could not believe it, okay? So Anthony Davis was probably the best player that I had seen at the college level in an ability to impact the game on both ends of the floor. And so I just bring it up to very simply say that when you look at Cooper Flagg, what stands out to me is I think he's very much the same way. 19 points per game this season, 7.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shot 39% from 3, but also about a block and a half and a steal and a half per game. And so he is the rare 5-star freshman. I didn't say he's the most offensively gifted. That's probably Carmelo Anthony. I would say Zion Williamson, sheer force of nature from a power and strength perspective, but from an ability to impact every phase of the NBA, every phase of a basketball game, Cooper Flagg's right up there. He's a guy that at 6'8", 6'9", can shoot the 3-ball. Averaged 19 a game, like I said. He could have averaged 28 if he wanted to, but he wanted to get others involved. He's always kind of making that right basketball play more than anything else. And so I just bring it up because I truly do believe in my heart that this is almost a perfect situation for him. Because as good as he was as a college player, the one thing that Cooper Flagg is not is what I just said about Carmelo Anthony. He's not a guy that is going to come in and just drop 23 points a game as a rookie and average 30 in his prime. He's not a guy whose sole ability is found in his ability to impact a game on the offensive end. That was a bad way to say that. Let me try that again. Cooper Flagg's impact on a game isn't solely can he put up 30 a game. There are a lot of freshmen that are like that. There are a lot of rookies that are like that. That's not Cooper Flagg. He's going to impact by being a playmaker, by being a defender, by being a help defender, by hitting threes, by making plays for other. There are going to be games, and we saw it in college this year. He might only have 5 points, but he might have 13 assists. He might only have 5 points, but he might have 10 rebounds and 4 blocks. And so to now go to a Mavericks team where you don't need him to be the face of the franchise and where, you prepare notes for almost every scenario. And I thought what I was going to be talking about today was the reality of Cooper Flagg going to the Washington Wizards, going to the Utah Jazz, where he was going to have to be a 24-point-a-night scorer to open his career, and that's really not who he is. So I'll say this with Cooper Flagg. I think how he ended up as a Dallas Maverick is weird. By the way, the Mavs have been weird for the last couple years. Remember, was it last season or this? It was 2 seasons ago. They were in position to be in the play-in and then tanked the final game of the regular season to miss the play-in tournament. Then last year they make the finals. Then this year they trade Luka Doncic in the middle of the season. So I got questions, and I'll say this. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I don't want to get this video pulled off of YouTube. But for the people that are saying Nico Harrison is a plant for the NBA, I mean, the last couple months are hard to dispute. Let me just put it that way. I still don't get the Luka trade. I still don't fully understand it. And I still think it's a little bit suspicious that a few months after the Mavericks gift Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, that they are gifted the number 1 overall pick with just a 1.8% chance to land it. Producer Matt, this is going to be a big topic. So if we have any questions, we might as well just knock them out now, or comments or anything related to this, because I think that we just stay on this. This is a huge freaking story. Let's see. Jed's beekeeping. Jazz fan, I'm depressed. Jed, I'll be real with you. I would be depressed as well. You know, this is the downside of all this tanking, is that at some point you got to hit a draft lottery. Now, by the way, maybe you win the lottery next year and you get AJ DeBansa. By the way, if you're a BYU fan, we're gonna have some pretty good BYU content over the next couple weeks, so stay patient. But I don't know how you can't be depressed. I'm sorry. I'm not conspiracy theory guy. I'm not tinfoil hat guy. 1.8% chance. A couple weeks after you trade Luka Doncic. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty weird. Anything else, producer Matt? Well, 32 says, never forget, if the Mavs didn't win the coin flip against Chicago after the season was over, they would be drafting 12th this year. How deep you want to go on this conspiracy theory? I'm just saying, like I said, I don't mean to keep repeating myself and saying the same thing over and over and over, but I mean, come on. This team gives away a superstar in his prime. And I'll be real, I go back to the night that the trade happened, and what me and Jason Martin were talking about was exactly this, was the idea that as an NBA franchise, you wait years, decades sometimes, to get a player of Luka's ability, and then you just move off of him. It never made sense. And now magically they get another one a few years later. By the way, been a couple conspiracy theories. I mean, listen, by the way, remember, the Pelicans won the Zion lottery just a few weeks after, right after trading Anthony Davis to the Lakers. The Cavs won the Kyrie lottery just a few weeks after LeBron, or it was a year after LeBron left for Miami. What was the other one? The Cavs won the lottery again with Andrew Wiggins when it was clear LeBron could possibly go back to Cleveland. Let me just say, there is a lot of conspiracy theories in this NBA lottery. This has to be at the top of the list, though. I'm sorry. Everyone had the same reaction. I haven't even been on social media because I knew we were going to go live as soon as this lottery got going. And everybody that I saw had the same thought, is this smells fishy. This smells funky. And fishy and funky is not a good thing. Let's see here. Anything else here before we switch gears? Because we got a pretty light show after this. I'll say this. G Money says Kyrie, AD, CT, which would be, is that Klay Thompson? I think he meant KT would be Klay Thompson. And Cooper Flagg is a crazy squad next season. Listen, I'll say this. I'll say this, is that it's going to be a really good squad. And listen, we don't talk a ton of NBA. We'll get to that in a second. Is that it is a really good squad. Now, Kyrie is coming off a knee injury. By the way, we had Jaden Quaintance on the show last week coming off an ACL injury. People were like, he's not going to be ready. Well, if you don't think Jaden Quaintance, I know it's kind of random, but if you don't think Jaden Quaintance is going to be ready, I don't know why you would think that Kyrie will be ready. But when Kyrie comes back, I mean, because think about it. I'll just say this really quick. I know I keep saying that a lot. I'll just say this really quick. Kyrie, listen, say whatever you want about Kyrie. He was phenomenal last year in the NBA Finals run. Anthony Davis, by the way, him and Cooper Flagg defensively, listen, I got some questions about Nico Harrison. I'm just here to tell you that he did say we're a defensive first team. Cooper Flagg is an elite defender, and Anthony Davis is an elite defender. CT, I assume, is Klay Thompson. He can get buckets even at his advanced age. They're going to be a really good team, and I haven't really thought about like the NBA and who could potentially miss the playoffs next year. I mean, obviously, there's a possibility the Grizzlies move off of Ja Morant. I get it. And so maybe they're a team that misses the playoffs. I don't know. But if the Mavs can somehow be healthy, they are going to be really, really, really good. I want to get to a couple other ones. Nico did the owners a solid. Listen, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but it sure does feel like this was something that was you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You make the Lakers relevant. I'll take care of you on the back end. Now, I will say the only thing I disagree with is with Nico doing the owners a solid. I think most of the owners are like, no. It's not, you're not doing the owners solid. You're doing Adam Silver a solid. You're doing the Lakers a solid. And in return, we'll go ahead and give you Cooper Flagg. Really quickly, there's a couple others I want to get to. Let's see here. Jazz fan depressed. We got to that one. ACYL says the exact same thing that I did. Feels kind of fixed, if you ask me. LOL. Feels kind of fixed to me, too. However you say it. ACYL Spades. It's hard to disagree. 1.8% for the team that traded Luka Doncic. They need a superstar. They need to save face in their own city. The funniest thing, by the way, and I don't root against players because I want to see Cooper Flagg reach his potential and be as good as he can be. It would be funny if the fans were just like, no, we're not embracing this. We see into the conspiracy theory. We are not allowing this to become a thing. So that's that. Gold says this is rigged. I'm just telling you, it sure does feel like it. It sure does feel like it's rigged, whether it actually is or not. Let's see here. Andrew says Torres on NBA is a once a year segment. Listen, I'll be real. This audience, I don't think loves the NBA or really cares about the NBA. This to me is more of a college into an NBA kind of thing. And listen, I'll be real. I had all my notes prepared. If Cooper Flagg goes to the Washington Wizards, this is 8 minutes and we're out. And so because of it, got a lot more interesting. And so I felt like we had to discuss it at least a little bit. But yeah, the fans in the chat are not happy. That poor depressed Jazz fan. Hey, you got AJ Debonsa for a year at BYU, so enjoy that. I hope you're not a Utah Utes fan because you got AJ Debonsa. This one, corruption, just like you get the point of what I was trying to say. Yeah. Here you go. This is what we'll end with. Jamie says, and I think he feels, or she, Jamie, if it's a boy or girl, I apologize. Final piece to the Luka trade. Nice move, NBA. Not. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that there are a lot of people that are very unhappy with Cooper Flagg potentially, almost certainly becoming a Dallas Maverick, and it feels like something is a little bit off. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. By the way, I do see the question on Alabama basketball. We'll get to that at some point. We have one question on the backside about college basketball, and I do want to get to a couple odds and ends. College football playoff, what are we doing? But I do have a college basketball take that we'll get to on the other end. Quick break. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, I have so many people that reach out and say, Torres, you give me hours and hours and hours of free content every day, every month, every year. What can I do to help support the show? Well, you want to support the show and look good in the process. Make sure to check out and support the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Some of you wondering, what can I get in that merch store, Torres? Well, Kentucky fans, we got our Mark Pope Hope and Pope t-shirts. That is right. Mark Pope, monster first year. Year 2 is going to be even better. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirt at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is coming. It is here. John Calipari has things rocking. Get your Big Pig Invasion tees. Again, aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. St. John's fans, we have our Big Rick Energy t-shirts. And if you're just a college basketball fan in general, guess what? Your March is for Day Drinking shirt. That is the shirt that you need year-round, but especially for the next NCAA tournament. You can order yours now. By the way, football fans, we got you covered too. Auburn fans, we already know the freeze warning has hit the plains. Make sure to get your freeze warning t-shirts. Also, Nebraska fans, new era, new rules, the t-shirt that you need before the start of this coming season. And oh, by the way, if you're a Colorado fan, if you're just a Coach Prime fan, we have our Dion shirts and hats, more of them than we know what to do with. So to check out the full line of Aaron Torres media merch and also support the show, good news is we're going to have even more for the fall. Check out the Aaron Torres media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. And for more information, you can always reach out at Aaron Torres. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So a little bit of a quieter weekend. We'll get to a couple other odds and ends. By the way, there is one college hoops thing that I do want to get to because I got a great question. By the way, you can always send questions for a mailbag segment. By the way, we got the Alabama fan in the chat. I apologize. We will get to your question at some point in the future. But you can always send questions, podcast, Aaron Torres podcast questions at gmail.com. Aaron Torres podcast questions at gmail.com. We will get to them at some point. But with that said, I did get one question that I think is worth diving into. Producer Matt, you go ahead and put up Jacob's question from today. Jacob, UConn's offseason haul has been very underrated. Are they done? If you were to do a preseason top 25, where would they be? Well, Jacob, I appreciate the question, and I do appreciate your support. Jacob, a huge UConn supporter. But Jacob, I'll start by saying this. Last week, we updated the way too early top 25. I do have UConn at number 4 right now, behind behind Purdue, Michigan right now, and that's assuming Yaxel Lendenberg comes back and St. John's. I do have UConn at number 4. But producer Matt, pop up the question again because I want to make sure I get this question right. Jacob asks, is UConn's haul the most underrated of the offseason? And to me, there is a very simple answer to that question. The answer, folks, is yes. And so let's go ahead and dive into UConn's offseason. And before we do, I do think context matters, okay? Because I think so many of us in the media, fans, people who love college basketball, we define a successful offseason by adding a million pieces, and more specifically, like 2 things. Did you get any big 5 stars? And most importantly, how did you do in the transfer portal? And as we discussed on last Thursday night's show, some of these schools, let me even backtrack. What we discussed on last Thursday night's show is that history tells us there are 2 indicators of being an eventual national champion. Do you have NBA talent? That's obvious. But then 2, you have to return a certain number of players, right? Is that we get so caught up in the portal and this team signed that guy and that team signed that guy and this team signed 7 guys who were this or that or the other thing. But historically, look at the last couple of years. Florida, they returned Walter Nolan. They returned all the big guys. They returned Will Richard from last year, end up winning a national championship. UConn, the year before, I said Walter Nolan, Walter Clayton, I apologize. Shout out Walter Nolan, though, who did not return to Texas A&M, ended up at Ole Miss. Now he's in the NFL somewhere. All right, so backtrack. UConn 2024, returned Donovan Clingan, returned Tristan Newton, returned, who was the other big name they returned? Alex Carabin was another big name. Returned Hassan Diarra, ended up winning the national championship. 2023, they win the championship with Jordan Hawkins, Adama Sanogo, and Andre Jackson all back. So the bottom line is we spend so much time talking about the portal, but I bring it up because the teams that generally do well in college basketball are teams that return a bunch of players. And so I've said it a few times already. I will keep saying it. The offseason at a couple schools were going to be defined not by who they got out of the portal, but by who they were able to return. I thought that was the case at Purdue. I still think it's the case at Houston, depending on what happens at the Combine. I think it was the case at BYU. I think it was the case at Arkansas. And I think it was the case at UConn. And so to answer Jacob's question, do I think UConn had the most underrated offseason in all of college basketball? I do. And let me explain why. It's because I think realistically, they are one of only a handful of teams that had about 4 or 5 guys that they could, in theory, return, that returned essentially every single guy that they wanted. And so you look at UConn, they only signed 2 guys out of technically a third one out of the portal. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what stands out to me about UConn, why it is so underrated, they had about 8 or 9 guys with decisions on, am I going pro, am I returning to college, and am I going to transfer? And I would say they are essentially the only team, maybe Arkansas would fit in this category, maybe BYU, maybe Purdue, but there aren't many, where they literally got back every guy they wanted and basically kicked to the curb every guy they didn't. So who did they get back? We've talked about it a lot, but it's worth reiterating. First of all, Alex Karaban comes back. And I know Alex Karaban struggled, and we talked about it when he decided to return. And I understand the non-UConn fans are going to tell me Alex Karaban stinks, and he regressed, and he this, and he that, and blah, 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 and this and that. Well, in a down year, Alex Karaban averaged 14 points on 35% three-point shooting and had a career high in rebounds and assists. That was in a down year. Now, I will admit, he did struggle at times. The three-point percentage was down. We've talked about it. I thought the roles were weird. I thought more importantly, he suffered a concussion early in the season, never really felt like the same guy to me. So he is back. I think he could have gone pro last year and been drafted. I don't know if he would have been this year, but I think he still probably would have been a second-round pick. Listen, I'm looking at all these mock drafts. There's a lot of kind of questionable guys that could be taken in the second round. I believe the kids call them sus. There's a lot of sus guys that could go in the second round. Alex Karaban, I think, would have been a second rounder if he had stayed in the draft. He decides to return. Beyond him, and we've talked about it, Solo Ball. I think Solo Ball, you talk about players that are potential national breakout players next year. I think Solo Ball is at the top of the list. 14 points per game, 41% three-point shooting, second team All Big East. He is coming back. Second team All Big East. He's going to be one of the most impressive players to return to college basketball next year. Beyond that, Torres Reed, we've talked a lot about him. How about this? In just 19 minutes played per game this year, 9 points, 7 rebounds, and about almost 2 blocks per game. That's in 19 minutes per game. And I think part of the problem was he came in. There was a fourth-year player named Samson Johnson that I think Dan Hurley felt obligated to play minutes. But if you're averaging almost 10 points, 7 rebounds, and a block and a half per game in 19 minutes, let's extrapolate that out to 40 minutes per game. And I know he won't play 40 minutes, but that's about 20 points, 14 boards, and about 3 blocks per game, closer to 3.5 blocks per game. Torres Reed, by the way, 24, 16 points, and I believe 24 points, 16 boards, and 6 blocks against Providence late. So you could see what he's capable of. So you talk about the guys that they are returning. You also, never forget, also have to factor in that they did go into the portal and get what they wanted. Silas Demery, point guard, Georgia, about 11.5 points per game. Malachi Smith, the guard from Dayton. He's a backup player, but I think he's going to play that Hassan Diarra role from a year ago perfectly. And I think he's going to be really, really, really good. By the way, while we're here, I should at least mention in passing, because I think, Jacob, part of the question was about what they did this offseason. Oh, by the way, I should mention, not only did they return everybody that they wanted, let's be honest, and I'll say this in the NIL era because I don't feel bad saying it, they also cut some dead weight. Aiden Mahaney had to go. I'm sorry. Wasn't very good. I don't know if he was welcome back. Isaiah Abraham and Ahmad Noel, I think, could have been good in time. But I'll say this. I think Ahmad Noel is one of the most talented players that was on last year's roster. But he was hurt. There was issues with his dad. His dad was very vocal on social media. I think UConn was kind of fine to see him go. They would have loved to keep him. But when dad gets vocal on social media, that's something that UConn has no patience for. And what I find interesting is that for Jacob's question, apparently Dan Hurley isn't done, okay? Because on Saturday, they did add a portal commitment in Dwayne Karoma from Lemoyne, who averaged 11.7 boards. And oh, by the way, had 13 and 5 against UConn. And so this is an interesting thing to me and I'll explain why. Because I think we're seeing this across college basketball. Spoiler alert. I mentioned we're going to have a special guest, Reese Potter, who committed to Kentucky the other day. 7-footer from the mid-major ranks. He's kind of coming in as this backup 5-man, but he's from Lexington. He wants to play for Kentucky. The spoiler is that's our interview for our Tuesday night show. And so I only bring it up because this is what I think we're going to see in college hoops going forward, is the fact that you spend most of late March, early April retaining the guys you want to retain, and then also getting the star players out of the portal that you want. By the way, producer Matt, great job. UConn also has several high school players coming in. Braylon Mullins is the most high profile, Eric Reeby, Jacob Furphy. And then last week, they also added Jacob Ross, the brother of Jaden Ross, who I didn't even mention as a returnee. I'm all over the place on this UConn segment. I'm sorry. I'm still frazzled by Cooper Flagg and Nico Harrison, okay? But I just bring it up because when you talk about an offseason, one, I think it's been underrated because it wasn't adding 8 players in the portal. It wasn't every single day hearing about UConn being linked to a new guy. It was about UConn getting 3 freshmen that they really liked. They just added a 4th. It was about UConn very early in the spring. I remember I was at the Final Four when Solo Ball announced he was returning, when Torres announced he was returning, when Jalen Stewart announced he's returning, another player, by the way, that I didn't acknowledge earlier. So you return everybody that you want. It happens early. You get Silas Demery early in the process. And then from there, you're just adding depth pieces. And so do I think UConn's done? I don't, because I don't have the scholarship numbers in front of me. But remember, with this house settlement, everyone's focused on the house settlement and the NIL components to it. But remember, there is now a scholarship limit of up to 15 players. And so what I think a lot of schools are doing now, who are those veterans in the portal that just want to come in and be a part of something special, that want to be a part of UConn, that want to be a part of Kentucky, that want to be a part of UCLA, that want to be a part of Tennessee or Texas or whatever? We got our 8 or 9 core guys, but who are the guys that want to come in and will be a practice player, will be a guy that can step in? And I really like that UConn added 2 of those in recent days, the kid out of Lemoyne, and then also on top of it, Jaden Ross's younger brother, Jacob Ross. And so I do think this was a very underrated offseason because of the fact that you didn't have to add a lot of pieces, but the keep first, again, you retained everybody you wanted. Let me go over that again really quick because I apologize. Alex Caravan, Solo Ball, Terrace Reed, Jalen Stewart, Jaden Ross. No disrespect, but you lost some dead weight off the back of the bench. You had 2 key transfers that are going to play a huge role in what you do. You have now added a couple freshmen, and you've recently added some really good practice players that I think under the right circumstances are going to be able to contribute, including, as I mentioned earlier, Dwayne Caroma, who was very good at Lemoyne last year, Lemoyne in the NEC. All right, really quickly, because I can't believe we're already we're already at 42 minutes. But I told you this Cooper Flagg segment had me completely frazzled. Couple things I just want to get to really quick. One, did you see this? A little bit of a nostalgia play. Remember, NBC, and we'll be quick on these next 2, but NBC is going to get the NBA package again. So want to be fun, want to be loose, want to have some fun conversation here to wrap the show. NBC is going to get the NBA next year. Remember, TNT is out, ESPN, Amazon, and NBC. So I think NBC is really going back to nostalgia on the NBA. I am a child of the 90s, so I remember Jordan. I remember Marv Alberts, Bob Costas, Jordan, Ewing, Reggie Miller. That was into the Kobe Shaq era. And I feel like that was kind of the height of the NBA. It was just like that was when everybody was watching, everybody was invested, everybody was interested, all of that. And the texts keep coming from people here, including, I won't say who, but got a couple more texts on the Cooper Flagg stuff. But NBA, they're tapping into the 90s nostalgia because we found out on Monday afternoon that when they start next season, guess who's going to be part of their coverage as a special contributor? Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Okay, so I'll be quick on this. I'm both interested and excited. MJ, by the way, is my GOAT to all you. What do they call him? LeBron. I forget the LeBron, whatever. I love LeBron. He's my age. I'm younger than him, but he's my era. LeBron ain't MJ, okay? But what'll be interesting to me is one, how MJ's used. Doesn't sound like he's going to be on game broadcasts. But then, like, what I just think is interesting is we just haven't heard from MJ for like 15 years. And so to me, I guess what I'm fascinated by is to just find out, like, how are they going to use him? Is he going to be in like a commentary role? Because, by the way, I worry if he's going to be in a commentary role because I think the best thing that MJ has done is that he has stayed out of the spotlight as part of his retirement. Basically, he has sat there and said, you know what? I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let you guys debate me as all these guys, as LeBron, every time he loses in the playoffs, my profile goes up a little bit. And so I think the smartest thing he's done has been to stay out of the spotlight. He isn't a guy that's always out there. I'm trying to think of an example of a guy like there's too much exposure to. There's plenty of them. in the modern era. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I think, by the way, there's too much exposure to LeBron. He's everywhere. He's got his own TV show. He's in movies. He's in this. He's in that. I think LeBron needs to be out there a little bit less. But I bring it up to say, what does that mean for MJ? Like, if he's going to be in some sort of commentary role, I think it's a bad look, because no matter what he says, it's going to be like, oh, he's just criticizing the older era, the younger era, like Charles Barkley and Shaq and all those guys. So I don't love that role for him. But is he going to be, what's he going to be doing? Again, by the way, I don't think he should be calling games. We saw with Tom Brady. I didn't think Tom Brady was bad as a broadcaster over the last couple years, or over the last season. But everything Tom Brady did, he was criticized. He was angry. He was this. He was too critical. He wasn't critical enough. He was too boring. He was whatever. And it felt like no matter what Tom Brady did, it simply wasn't good enough. So I'll be curious to see what MJ does. And I will be curious to see what happens from here. Producer Matt, I didn't think the draft lottery was going to be such a big deal. I was going to do a segment on the college football playoff being set to expand again. It looks like it's going to 16. I don't think you guys care about that. Do you guys want to talk more Cooper Flagg? I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. We don't have to do the NBA. I was going to do a segment on the college football playoff expansion. By the way, worth noting, a couple things. One, we will be traveling this week. Wednesday is the NFL schedule reveal. I thought it was interesting. We found out that the Cowboys and the Eagles will play on opening night. So busy week for Dallas. Cooper Flagg was gifted to the Mavs, and maybe forgettably, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be playing on opening night, where I think they're going to get smacked by the Philadelphia Eagles. But yeah, I think we're going to cut out of here a little bit early. We're the only show in America that can do 46 minutes, and it feels like, we're just getting started. But tonight with the Cooper Flagg stuff, it just does not feel like we have to do a segment on the college football playoff. So I think what we're going to do is probably mostly go ahead and get out of here. I see more questions about the Cooper Flagg conspiracy theories. Scott says, God DF draft lottery is absolutely fixed. Two worst teams at their worst possible spot, while Spurs, 76ers, and Dallas move up. Dallas had a 1.8. Let me comment on this. And producer Matt, I'm going to have you stitch this together with the first set of comments. That is a great point, by the way, because I'll tell you, on our Fox Sports Radio show on Saturday, we did like what are the hypothetically most interesting landing spots for Cooper Flagg. I thought Chicago would have been interesting, just because great fan base that hasn't had much to cheer about since the MJ days, but only bring it up because the obvious ones were the ones that Scott is talking about. It was the 76ers. Does Cooper Flagg extend Joel Embiid's prime? The Spurs with Wemby, Dallas to cover for Nico Harrison. And the ones that aren't interesting were the teams that had the best odds. The Charlotte Hornets, who can't get anything right ever. The Washington Wizards, who have been irrelevant forever. And oh, by the way, the San Antonio Spurs, of course, with Wemby and Steph Castle. And so I just bring it up because, again, to dive into the Cooper Flagg conspiracy theory further, it wasn't just the Dallas Mavericks getting the number one overall pick. It's all these teams that are like a piece away from being interesting, now being in position to get that piece. The Spurs are going to make the playoffs next year. It's just how high are they going to land with Wemby, with De'Aaron Fox, whatever. Well, now you get to add a VJ Edgecombe, a Trey Johnson, who I think can step in and average 20 a game in the NBA if you want. Maybe not 20, but could average 15 to 18 in the NBA if you wanted to. You can add a Dylan Harper. The Philadelphia 76ers, they do have a nice young core with Tyrese Maxey, with Jared McCain, and of course have Embiid. Now they can add. Who could they add? They could add, again, a Trey Johnson, a VJ Edgecombe, an Ace Bailey, who's kind of an interesting piece if he doesn't have to be your guy. So I think it's a great point by Scott, and that maybe just there's something going on here. Listen, I'm not saying Adam Silver has to be investigated, but Adam Silver has to be investigated. All right, I'll tell you what. Like I said, we're the only show in America that could do 49 minutes, and it feels like we didn't barely create any content. But I do think it is time for us to get out of here. If you're not subscribed to the Aaron Torres pod, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you get your podcasts, please make sure that you are subscribed to the pod. Make sure to rate and review the show. Go ahead and give us a quick 5 stars. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff. By the way, we don't talk NBA often, so we appreciate the very lively chat and the very good crowd that we got tonight. So here's the schedule for this week. We will be back on Tuesday night. Interview with Reese Potter, newest Kentucky Wildcat. Wednesday, may do a live show, not sure. Definitely will do a live show Thursday, although producer Matt, you might be on a plane, but that's okay. I'll figure out a way to do a show. But Reese Potter tomorrow. Any relevant topics we'll try to get to on Wednesday, if not Thursday. But make sure you're subscribed, man. What a fun show. God, love this show. Time for me to go. By the way, we are going to have so much great content for you over the next couple weeks. Like I said, we're going on the road, mystery trip. We're going to have a lot of content for you. So make sure you're subscribed, and it's time for us to get out of here. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. Shout out to JJ Redick, you F-head. Shout out JJ Redick, my guy. Unblock me, bro. I'll be back. Be back on Tuesday with Reese Potter later in the week as well. Appreciate your support.